All right, my name is Ron Carrico. I'm with the San Diego Air and Space Museum, and today we're interviewing Martin Jackson, a World War II fighter pilot who flew P-47s. He has some interesting stories to tell us, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, Mr. Jackson, would you please tell me your full name?
Martin Irving Jackson, Jr.
And you're currently living in Fallbrook, California, correct?
Correct.
And you were just starting to explain to me that you graduated from high school in June of 1941, and and you were living in where?
Chicago.
And
Chicago.
December 1941 happens, and what did you do then?
We about 20 of us from the school went down to the Navy recruiting office, and we wanted to join the Navy Air Corps. And the Navy guy says, "Fine, here's a consent form for your parents to sign, because you were a minor till you were 21 then."
Oh, really?
And the Navy wouldn't even talk to you until they had the consent form signed. So I couldn't get my dad to sign it. He completely refused.
So what year were you born?
1923, August 1923.
So you were about 16 when the war. You just turned 17.
Well, I just it was 41. That was just that August I turned.
So you.
It was. They sent us 500s from Chicago in about February 1st.
Oh, nice day.
Yeah, we
Nice
went
weather.
down to Wichita Falls, Texas, Shepherd Field.
Shepherd, right? Yeah.
And we took 6 months basic training. 35-mile hikes, shooting a rifle on a range and all that stuff. And
So was flying in the were you the idea of flying or just become a
we
military?
couldn't even look at an airplane.
6 months?
No, 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay.
Did I say 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think you said 6 months.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
6 weeks. So then,
So now you come out as your second lieutenant?
no, you just graduated from basic training. You're a buck private, and then they had a new program where they wanted to send us to a college training detachment. So as we're packing up to go to this college training detachment, a sergeant arrives in the barracks and says, "You guys unpack. You're not going to be shipped out." Pilot training, we went down to SAC, San Antonio Aviation Cadet Center, at Lackland Field, we got there in June of 42, and or 40, yeah, 43 June of 43, and we had to go through classification. That's where they give you all the agility tests and IQ tests and all that. And then you were selected pilot, navigator, bombardier. And some guys were, of course, washed out, because of physical problems or something like that. Anyway, I was accepted as a pilot and what we call pre-flight, 2 months of pre-flight.
What airplane?
No airplanes. This is pre-flight.
Okay.
Pre-flight. They're real rough. Half a day like physical training and half a day ground school. They're real strict with you.
So
Pass out demerits like mad and walking the ramp and stuff like that. But anyway, at the end of that, we were sent to primary flying school. I went to Cuero, Texas, and they had PT-19s. And after about 10 days, I soloed and I fell in love with the airplane.
So, what class were you in when you graduated?
44C.
Okay.
So we went from.
So primary was the PT-19, and what was the follow-on aircraft?
There was BT-13. Everyone called it the VULTEE vibrator.
Right.
And that was at Waco,
Right.
Texas. After 2 weeks there, we were sent to Moore Field, near McAllen, Texas, right by the Rio Grande Valley.
Right.
And we had AT-6s. And we also learned instrument flying there. And I loved it. And we graduated, got our wings. We had 2 weeks leave. We came back and flew P-40s. And then after about
Okay.
10
So
hours.
all right, hold on. So you go from an AT-6, which is a pretty hot airplane, really.
Oh yeah, nice.
Compared to a civilian airplane. But now, what was the feeling when you went to a P-40, which was a inline 12-cylinder as opposed to a radial?
Yeah, fighter plane. Yeah, and God, when you got in there, you sat in there and you saw the Lincoln Highway. Here's this long nose out there.
Oh yeah.
Wow! And you look at the wings and they're comparatively short. You know, and you, wow, flying prostitute. You know.
What did you? Now by now you're a competent pilot, instrument pilot, and everything else. But now you're going to get into gunning and bombing, apparently.
Yeah. So we got into. Had 10 hours of P-40, then they sent us down to Matagorda Island with AT-6s for gunnery and bombing stuff. And we spent a couple weeks there. Then we came back to...
What'd you shoot at? What did you shoot at?
Well, they had, ground, big bullseye ground targets.
Right.
And learning how to make ground passes. And,
Right.
And then dropping bombs, etc., with the 100-pound, little fuse on it.
Yeah, where you can see the smoke.
Just
yeah.
mark it,
Right.
know. And that was very interesting flying down there because of the winds. And we take off 2 at a time, and they had jackrabbits all over the place. But it was really something to take off in that wind, and one after the other, because the winds were so strange. You'd be cross-controlling like mad.
Was there on the P-40? Now you're up to about 1,000 horsepower there, right?
1,200.
1,200. Okay. And when you took off, you did formation takeoffs a lot, apparently. No?
Single takeoff.
Always single ship.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now you get in. So you go through the P-40, and then you graduate from the P-40. And what do you go into next?
We were sent to Richmond, Virginia, and that's headquarters of 1st Air Force Fighter Command. And we were shipped up to Bradley Field, Connecticut, and they had P-47s there. And we got up there, and first time we got close to a P-47, and we got up there, wow, what a monster, you know. It was the biggest single seat fighter plane in the world.
Right.
It was wow. And then they, of course, they let us sit in the cockpit, and you had to learn where everything was. And then the instructor came around and asked you questions, where's this, where's that, you know. Close your eyes, where's this, where's that. And so you picked up where all the controls were. So as soon as you were familiar with the cockpit, then they okayed you to go out and fly. And it was very interesting getting in the P-47 because what power, you know, great big engine on it. And we didn't have any guns on it or anything. So imagine just the power you felt on it and take it off.
Is it a 4-blade or a 3-blade?
4.
So
40.
this was later. This is to be about a P-47N or something like that.
Oh, a D model.
D model. Okay.
Yeah. Like a D-16 or something like that. And then we...
had these been warbirds before? Had they been?
No.
They'd never been in combat then?
No.
And you flew without guns initially?
Yeah, the guys. You're up there, and then you learn the characteristics of the airplane. You do spins and stuff like that.
How did it vary from a P-40? How was it different than a P-40 to fly?
Oh, so much more power, you know. It's faster, and of course heavier. And
How were the controls? Light or heavy?
very light. We had big ailerons. Like half the wing was an aileron, and half were flaps, you know, movable flaps.
Yeah.
That went,
So you had single stage or two-stage supercharging?
Oh, I don't know. Right up to 25,000 RPMs. That's per minute.
2,500, you mean?
25,000. I'm sure it was 25.
You mean the supercharger? Oh, okay, all right, yeah, okay. The engine didn't go that fast.
Oh, no.
But then on top of that, you had water injection.
Yeah, we used it. That was for emergency.
And what did it do for the water injection?
Well, you just got a burst of energy in it.
How much did it really...
Maybe about 400 horsepower difference. Something like
You
that.
could really feel it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have to control the prop, or was it automatic?
You know, you could control the prop. It was automatic electric props.
Mm-hmm.
And but you would. We'll get into that a little later about the props.
Well, let's talk about it right now.
Okay, well.
Okay, so I'll take.
Okay. You need to think about the props once you set the prop setting.
There you go.
And then.
So what's a prop setting for takeoff? Let's see how good your memory is.
You're about 2,500, something like that.
Okay, and then landing about the same probably.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then in cruise.
The cruise you'd be about 2,300, something like that.
Oh, that high, really?
Yeah.
And then manifold pressure.
I don't really remember, but I know we had to keep a minimum of 52 inches.
And then on takeoff, do you remember what it was?
Oh yeah, well takeoff you're burning about 600 gallons per hour.
Yeah.
And you're cruising there, you're burning maybe about 80, 90 gallons per hour.
What was the longest mission you ever flew?
7 hours and 10 minutes.
And where was that out of going to?
That was out of Okinawa up to off the coast of Honshu. And me and another guy were flying cover on a Martin Mariner Navy plane. Mm-hmm. Detected many Jap fighters that might come up. Nothing ever happened on it.
That'd be one of the ugliest airplanes ever
So
made.
it was a long mission because we didn't do anything. But now, when I got overseas, very important. We got down there in the South Pacific where it was very critical on your fuel consumption because our distances were so great. And LINDBERG had been over there and taught the guys how to fly. And when you tell you the throttle settings, you're amazed. We had to put the throttle full open and the turbine full open. And then you would put your RPM at 2,000. Then you would take the mixture control out of auto lean and bring it back until you saw a little drop on the RPM on the prop. Then you nudge it up a little bit and you sat there. And when you flew like that, you had full 8 guns, all the ammo, and your load, a couple 1,000-pound bombs or wing tanks, whatever. You would be consuming between 50 and 55 gallons per hour.
So LINDBERG worked that out, and it was passed around. Was that something you trained with initially, or did you wait to?
No, as soon as I got overseas, I never met LINDBERG, but he had been there before I got there.
Yeah, he was going around to different bases explaining.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He was telling the guys how to do this.
Did they play in the EGT or the exhaust gas temperature at all, engine temperature? Because it seems like if you lean it out, you're going to increase the temperature at the cylinder heads.
Well, that's one of the things you had to watch. You know?
Oh, so you did watch that then?
Oh yeah. You didn't want to burn up your engine.
So the idea is you lean it back until such point it doesn't run, then you kind of ease it forward again, and that'll give you the good mixture.
Give it a little more fuel than or a little more RPM. Or
so now you went up to Connecticut to train. Now somebody, I guess maybe it was Robert Johnson. I read a book by Robert Johnson that I think he had 26 or 27 kills. He was right after. He was second, I think. And I think he did the same thing. He went up to Connecticut and trained.
Yeah.
Which always surprised me. I mean, why would you go? Unless it was to get ready for the European theater with crummy weather.
Well, yeah, most of the guys that I trained with, most of my class went over to Europe. And we were down in Richmond, Virginia, after we finished training at Bradley. And we also went to Suffolk Air Base on Long Island. That's where we did our gunnery and bombing. And that was great.
Great place.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah, we went Hampton Roads up there.
Oh, man.
And we had a ball there because we would shoot at tow targets along the beach and no boats out there at all. And when you finished shooting at the tow targets, you went home on your own. So we just do big split S, come down the beach and do roads over the beach and run back to Suffolk. Then in the afternoon we go down there to the beach. The girls.
That was me. What? Okay, so now, who was towing the tow targets?
We were. we would fly in the tow plane, which was stripped down.
Okay.
And it was really an experience to take that off. And when we first saw the guys taking that off like that, I said, who the heck's getting paid to do that? We were.
Well, did you take
And I
off?
was the first guy in my group to do it.
So were you take off with it attached, or did you fly over and pick it up?
Oh, no. It was attached. They had the tow way down at the runway.
Right.
And then they brought the tow line up and hooked it on by the tail.
So
And then what you did, your job was to get up as high as you can, as soon as you could, so you wouldn't drag the tow on the runway. And boy, you got up fast.
it was a banner, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How big was the banner?
Oh. Maybe about 10 yards, I guess.
And then different color ammunition?
Yeah. The bullets we had were different color. We only had 2 guns, and the tips of the bullets were painted. So
Okay.
they would leave a marking on the banner.
And the colors were?
Oh, red, yellow, blue.
So, now maybe you can describe with your hands how would a typical pass work? In other words,
All right.
started high,
All
started
right.
low.
The tow plane would go this way. Then you would be parallel with the tow plane, and you would get up maybe 300 feet higher than the tow plane, and then you would dive down and turn into the tow plane, and then turn back, and because you wanted to learn deflective shooting, so you want to shoot ahead of the tow target, and that was the object of it. And you didn't want any get on and make a dead-on shot because you'd be shooting the tow plane.
So the tow plane was going straight.
Yeah, you never move. You just go straight, and you better go straight, you know. And
he's about in the banner's what, 1,500 feet behind?
oh, I don't. Yeah.
Pretty far, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, it was quite a ways. Maybe I don't think it was that far behind. Maybe not bad, 750, something like that.
See,
800 feet.
in jets it was 1,500 feet behind.
Might be.
The guy would go into a turn,
Yeah.
and then you would roll in and cut him off, to do
Yeah,
the
yeah,
deflection.
you're picking up, when you dive down, you picked up speed, so you're much faster than the tow plane. Then you turned in, and as soon as you started to roll out, you were parallel with the tow plane.
Right.
And then you came in, and then you picked up the tow target, and you had your light type gun sight,
Right.
and from the radius to the rim would be like 100 miles an hour or something like that. So
Mills, you mean?
yeah, and so you figure out how to shoot it. They call it deflective shooting.
Yeah, but then you set the gun sight for a certain size, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think the gun sights were for 300 yards.
Yeah, I know some of the airplanes, I know they had a ring that you would switch from the wingspan of what you're going to shoot at, and then the distance you wanted to shoot at, and that would adjust the size of the reticle.
Yeah.
The red circle. So you'd say,
Yeah,
okay.
we didn't have adjustable gun sights in the air.
You didn't?
They would adjust them on the ground.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but we never. Most of our, because we were shooting down the airplanes.
Right.
Most of our that was straight head shooting. And,
Yeah.
So we just put the pip on when we were going to shoot.
Right.
And where did it go?
So where were the guns? Now you had 4 50 caliber machine guns on each wing.
That's right.
And they were all harmonized to hit about the same spot?
Oh, yeah.
How far away?
About 300 yards.
I guess that would work for ground. It's good. That's good for ground targets. Maybe not so great for air targets.
Imagine, well, we saw what would happen when we would shoot them,
Oh.
Because imagine those, and those rate of fire was about 600 rounds per minute, and we had 474 rounds per gun, and of course you only gave like maybe 2 seconds, most 2 seconds. And boy, then you see the target, whoom, it's just sort of like erupting.
Could you feel the airplane decelerate?
Oh yeah, it's like put it on brakes.
Did it really?
Oh yeah, you'd feel it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I flew I flew the F4 and you couldn't feel it at all.
Well, you were launching missiles.
No, we had a gun. We had a 50 cal. We had a 20 millimeter cannon.
Or just
You could feel it go off, but it didn't really.
whatever.
It didn't decelerate the airplane.
Yeah.
But you're talking a 30,000-pound airplane with hundreds of thousands of horsepower. You know?
Oh yeah.
So.
You weren't affected like we were.
So anyway, so when you graduate from the P-40, and then when you get up to Connecticut, what was when did you actually graduate? And now you're a full-fledged fighter
Right,
pilot.
we graduated in March of 1944. We got our wings. Then we went back to Moorfield for the P-40 training, and then to Matagorda for the gunnery, and then we were shipped to Bradley Field, or really Richmond, Virginia, and sent to Bradley Field.
And so when were you combat ready and ready to go off to the?
At the end of August.
Okay.
Little before about August 15th, we were.
Okay, so if you can remember back, what do you think? What was the situation like at that time? We were.
Well,
closing
they had invaded Europe on June 6th.
Right.
Okay. And the beginning of June is when we went to Bradley. And we all thought we were going to Europe because we were flying P-47s, and we knew how much they used in Europe because of the 9th Air Force. So we were surprised when we took there was 76 of us who were taken out and we put it on a train, and we were headed west, and they didn't tell us where we were going. And we were in 2 Pullman cars, and it was sort of an ad hoc trip where sometimes we were hooked onto civilian trains, and then we'd be taken off, then hooked up to a troop train, then back on a civilian train.
So you didn't get orders that told you where you're going to go?
Someone, yeah, the guy that was taking us there knew where we were going and wouldn't tell us. We weren't supposed to know where we were going.
Okay, so of your class, some guys went to Europe.
Most of them went to Europe.
Okay.
Some went to the CBI, China, Burma, India. And then the 76 of us were, and it wasn't just from our class, it was other guys from different airfields around. And we ended up at Hamilton Air Force Base. What a beautiful spot.
Oh, yeah.
It was gorgeous. And we spent a couple of days there. Then we got on the C-67s, yeah, which is the transport version of a B-24.
Oh.
And then it's also a C-54. I was on the I was on the transport, Liberty airplane transport. And we left San Francisco, Hamilton Field really, and then went to Hawaii and landed at Hickam Field. And I was looking at history. Of course, they were changing crews for the airplane and servicing the aircraft, and fed us, and then we waited around there for 3 or 4 hours altogether. And I just had to walk around Hickam Field, and I was so impressed. I'm looking at history, there's Pearl Harbor. And I'm looking at these hangars that they had around there, and they had cement walls, and they were all pockmarked from bullets hitting them.
They still are today.
And I kept it that way. And the windows had bullet holes. I think they're still got the holes in the window. And then I'd walk around the tarmac and looking around, and I see big patches of fresh concrete. Knew that a bomb hit there.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed with the Hickam Field. I'm looking at history. And so we got on the plane, and life began to change drastically. Because we went to Canton Island in the Phoenix Island group. And that was this refueling stop, and they had this runway on this atoll, and from shore to shore. And we landed there and to refuel and service the airplane, and we were taken to their mess hall. And we looked at the food, yuck. Yuck. The only thing we really ate there was they had stewed fruit, and we all knew what that was. And we ate stewed fruit, you know. And we got back on the airplane, and we went to Henderson Field on Guadalcanal. Again, I'm looking at history, you know. And we get there, and we had to wait around for a while, so I walked around there because my kid I grew up with, Ami, was in the Marical division. They took over from the Marines on Guadalcanal, and he was wounded and got malaria. And he was so bad when they got home, they discharged and they didn't keep him in the service. Yeah. And I'm walking around there, and you saw the marks on the palm trees from the shrapnel and stuff, and anyway, but
So when did you? What was the?
What was so upsetting about Guadalcanal was the personnel that were stationed there. Look, everyone looked like they had jaundice. Gosh, look at those poor guys. Look how bad they look. Yeah. So from there we got.
Why?
Well, when the war started, we lost our supply of quinine. The Japs had it, and we didn't. That's why we almost lost the war in the beginning. Because the guys at Guadalcanal didn't have any quinine. And they finally found a substitute for it that worked, and that was Atibrine, which was a German dye. And they got enough of that to start supplying the troops with German dye. And the dye worked. You turn yellow. Really yellow. And you look sick.
All right, so wait a minute. So okay. The idea was to stop malaria.
Yeah.
So if you take this dye, it would prevent the malaria. But
just like quinine.
But the result was you turn yellow.
Yeah. And when you had that tan, you look.
See, one of those things I was told. That's one of those things I've never heard that before.
Never did.
I never heard that before.
Oh. Then, when you first see a guy with that had been taking Atibrine, you're like, God, the guy must be dying, you know.
Okay, so when was it you got there?
Beginning of September.
Beginning of September.
Finally got the okay. Then we arrived at only 75 were able to go. One guy got sick on the way over, so he was kept back. But 75 of us arrived at NADZA, New Guinea, which was called Combat Replacement Training Center, CRTD. And as soon as we got there,
And the name of the place again was?
Combat Replacement.
No, the name of the
CRTD.
No. In New Guinea, what was the NADZ?
Oh, NADZAB, NADZAB.
And it's an air base.
That's right. Yeah. Well, there were 3 airstrips there, and it was right back at Lae, New Guinea, LAE.
Okay.
Everyone knows what Lae, New Guinea is, but we were about 20 miles inland from Lae, New Guinea. And
was it all
a
Army?
big valley, and so that's where we were stationed, and they immediately took about half of us and put them up to replacement pilots because there was 3 fighter groups in the 5th Air Force that flew P-47s, the 35th, the 58th, and the 348th. And so when they set these guys up as replacement pilots, and I was among the undeployed, and they let us start flying for a couple of days because we were flying planes with 4 machine guns, fully loaded. Big difference. So we got used to flying these heavy birds. And
do you remember the total weight?
huh?
Do you remember the total weight?
I think it was 8 tons, 16,000 pounds. It was the heaviest wing loading of any plane in war.
While I'm thinking of it, what was the fastest speed you ever got up to in a P-47?
About 550.
Wow. Compressibility problems then?
That happened, we checked back to Bradley Field. When we got there, after we flew for a couple of days, the instructors got us in and talked to us. They said, now we're going to go up. We're going to go up to 40,000 feet. And each one of us will go on a separate dive. And you're going to about a 60 degree dive. And you're going to hit compressibility. And your plane's going to go about 550 miles an hour. And on the way down, your plane will start vibrating. and your controls will freeze up. You won't be able to move the stick. You won't be able to move the rudders. And you're headed to the ground about 550. And the only thing we got to tell you is don't panic. Sit there and don't mess with any of the controls. Just sit there and wait. And when you get down to about 10,000 feet, the plane will start reacting. The controls will take over, and you'll start flying, and you'll pull out. Really. And
So what did you do with the power when that happened?
you kept it the same. They said don't change your power setting or anything. You just sit there and wait. And it was a very frightening experience the first time you do it, even though you know you're going to be all right.
Where did they figure that out? It was
Well, they must have figured out at Wright-Patterson or down at Egland Field, one of those places.
and that first time they
Imagine the poor guys that did this in the beginning, trying to figure out what to do, and how many guys they must have lost.
Well, I've read stories about guys getting their feet up against the dashboard instrument panel or whatever, pulling back as hard as they could, and opening cockpits up and dropping gear and all kinds of stuff. I've heard everything, so I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, but they said don't touch anything. If you just keep your head and wait, you'll survive. And we did it. But what a frightening experience, I'll tell you. And because the aircraft were designed that the air would build up in front of the wings, in front of the tail, and all that, and it couldn't go any faster. You're like up against the wall. And the pitot tube really didn't work, so they never knew the exact speed, but they estimated about 550 in there. And that would vary too, on the temperature, right? How cold it is. It's
Right.
the colder the air is, the more dense it is, and the speed of sound is higher. Isn't that funny? The higher the density of the object, the speed of sound will increase.
Right.
Okay. So sit there and don't. And so once you did it, okay, you had confidence, right? So I got into about 3 or 4 of those, and the last time I got in one, it was just before we left Valley Field. I was number 4 in a flight, and we're up to about 40,000 feet, and we're flying along there, and we see another flight of 4, about 7,000 to 8,000 feet below us, and our leader called them out and said, let's bounce them. And of course, they could hear us. So good idea. So we dived down on them, and of course, when they knew we were coming, they broke up. And one guy turned into me in such a way that I had to steepen my dive. And when I did that, boom, I hit compressibility. Compressibility. Because I knew I couldn't move the controls, and the plane started vibrating. Well, what happened? Suddenly my cockpit filled up with like a bluish gray smoke. I'm on fire. I'm going to die. I'm on fire. I'm not looking around. Where's the fire? And a few seconds later, the smoke disappeared out of the cockpit. And I recovered all right. My radio was dead. When we got back to the field, they figured out the vibration caused the radio to short out. Mm-hmm. But what a frightening thing, I'm suddenly, well, cock was in. But anyway.
So now after a mission, or after any mission, you'd join back up again, and then we normally flew flights of 4, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. And so as you approach the field, you switch over to echelon, and then you break over the end of the field, kind of thing. And what was your normal traffic pattern speed?
Oh, I say about 150.
On downwind, and then landing speed.
Yeah, land speed. It depends. If we're flying in the States, your landing speed might be about 100, 105. When you're overseas, about 115, 120.
So you don't get shot at.
You got the guns on there, and sometimes you might be carrying back some of your load or something. When you aboard a mission or something, we had to save ammo and everything. Bombs, we didn't jettison bombs unless they were really necessary. We had to use them because we were short of everything.
So in other words, you would increase as the weight of the airplane increased. Then you would.
So and the best part about it in the South Pacific, we flew completely different than they did in Europe. We were flying long distances, and everyone had the red light on when he came back. Everyone, and and usually we had one airstrip on an island. And what did you have on that airship? You might have 2 fighter groups, B-25 group, an A-20, B-24 group, and a C-47 group. And what was the priority in landing? Fighters, attack bombers, medium, right down the line.
There you go.
So when we were over in combat, like the Guinean Gulf, one airstrip along the water, we had that metal planking, and you better be on that planking. If you miss the planking, you're dead. Because it's soft sand.
Oh, right.
All right. Oh, boom. Right. Yeah.
You flip over, right.
And then when you got in the from about 11 o'clock on, you started having a real strong cross onshore wind.
Mm-hmm.
Got a crosswind, and you got a strip that's maybe 20 feet wide, and you're coming in on it. So how would we land with all these bombers and everything? And those poor guys with those B-24s, they really went out long distances. And they'd be in a traffic pattern, and they always were a minute apart, B-24s. Because they had to avoid having eddies running down the runway. Because if a B-24 was landing and it was goosing the engines, and the B-24 in back of him was too close, he couldn't keep it, and he'd hit a wing or something, right? So they always had a minute apart. So we'd come back from these combat missions, and we'd call the tower, can we land with our big friends? Okay, go ahead. So it was a circus. You'd be surprised. The B-24 would come in, and just as it was setting down, we have 4 P-47s in echelon, and the leader would be right on the tail of that B-24. And then he'd go, choo, and he'd choo, 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 and he'd do like a 45-degree loop, and you chop your throttle, pull it up, dump the wheels, the handle would down, bump, and the wheels would go boom from the centrifugal force. And as soon as you got at the top of your loop, you dump full flaps. And you roll right out, and you come in, and you land about 115, 20 miles an hour. Right back B-24. You get 4 in there, and between 5 B-24s, we'd have 4 fighters down. It never disturbed their pattern. And you know, our B-24 friends used to say about us, all fighter pilots are crazy.
Well, so what you were doing was a pitch up. In other words, you come in right back up, and then all it just lead would go. 5 seconds later, the next would go.
Chop throttle right straight up.
God, that is so cool.
Yeah, and we did that, and the enlisted men would really enjoy it. They'd go out,
they wouldn't.
What's the circuit? And the P-38s did the same thing. The P-51s.
Yeah, that's just.
That's how you had to land.
Yeah, it's also great showing off stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that was a fighter pilot's landing pattern.
Oh yeah, well just the other guys are looking on the ground. And hey, number 3 is too far away from number 2 and all that. Right?
Yeah.
So how about now? Here's another one. Now, when you take off out of traffic, when you take off initially, did you take off 2 ship there, or
Oh, 1.
just single ship?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we always did formation takeoffs.
Oh my God! Yeah, we 1 plane at a time.
Then how did you rejoin?
We
Lead takes off. He goes in.
Let me tell you something.
Okay.
In Europe they had permanent airfields out of England. And they had these big pastures they were flying out of. They could be off the runway even and take off and landing and stuff. Not in the South Pacific. Man, you're flying off a narrow strip.
PSP.
And most of the time, you're flying off a strip that they're still constructing. They take equipment off the strip so you can take off. And they take equipment off the strip so you can land. Because you're moving. And you'd be surprised our living.
It's sort of hard to imagine anything this vast ever occurring. I mean, they're talking about building F-35s, right? They're going to build 35 of them.
Yeah.
How many would they build? 10,000 47s or something? Maybe 5,000.
Yeah, I think they had.
Well, but so anyway, when you turn out of traffic, in other words, lead takes off, 2, 3, probably 10-second intervals on takeoff, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then 2 gets in, 3 gets in, 4 gets in.
Yeah, well, you make a big circle around the airfield. Also got many guys take off. Problem we had, we were carrying like 2 wing tanks, high test gas, and a belly bomb, 500-pound on the belly. And you go down that runway, or you might have a 2,000-pound bombs, a 500-gallon wing tank, or 265-gallon tanks and a 500-pound bomb, you know.
So what was the takeoff rule?
We had about 5,000 feet.
Oh my God.
We have about 5,000-foot runways, and you go down there, and once you got up there and you speed it all, like about 50 miles an hour, if you blew a tire, you were cremated.
Did you have like a go, no-go speed or a certain speed at a certain...
We had, the only rule we had taken off is the tower was halfway down the runway. If you didn't have 100 miles an hour by the time you got to the tower, you better check everything. Just try to stop.
Okay.
You're not going to make it.
Right. Did it ever happen to you?
No. I had problems where, like, I was going down a runway one time, and I'm carrying 2 wing tanks, 165-gallon wing tanks, and I got down to the tower. Everything was great. And I saw a little puff of smoke come from under the cowling, you know, and hit the window. Little tiny puff of white smoke. What? I looked back there on my instruments. There's my RPM for the prop spinning down. There was a toggle up here and for the prop, and I just hit it, increase the speed. If I hit it the other way, I'd have been dead. And I never had to use it before in an emergency, but I knew it was there. Without even thinking, I hit it. And I was just able to get off the ground. And then my prop, when I couldn't keep it from oscillating, and I had to run it up and let it run down. So I had to abort my deal, and so I had to wait till the other guys got off. And I asked the tower, can I jettison my tanks? They said, okay. So I went back, this is on Mindoro, and I went back over to jungle area and jettisoned my tanks, and because I don't know what's going to happen when I get around to land it, you know. I don't want to be landing with that. Get cremated.
Did you ever get a runaway prop?
No, I never had a runaway prop.
But that must have happened sometime, didn't it?
Well, yeah, very few. I just had 2 times I had the prop control go out.
Wow.
And but you had to be careful, you know.
Okay, so now let's say you're on. Now, okay, you got to figure out. Okay, so how long did it take you after you got there to actually get combat ready in the P-47 to actually go to a forward operating area?
Well, what happened with me, very interesting story. I was there about a week, and they landed up at Mordtai Island, the farthest advance, in the Halmahera group. Then a couple of days later, the colonel of the base, Colonel Brandt, he came into our operations area, and I didn't even know who he was. And he motioned for me to come over, and I went over, yes, sir. And he says, tomorrow morning, you're going to be my co-pilot, my B-25, so meet me at 8 o'clock, and you'll be gone about 2 weeks. I said, sir, this is fighter ops. B-25 ops is down the road. He says, I know that, but I still want you to meet me. I said, yes, sir. And so the next morning, I met him at his B-25, and he had been there, and the crew chief was there, and I go up to him. I said, what the hell am I doing here? I said, I never flown a twin-engine plane. and the crew chief laughed and said, okay, the colonel will take care of you. So got there. I get up in the plane, sit there in the co-pilot seat. Strange, you know, country. And I'm sitting there, and we had the window open, and he starts up the engine, and B-25 engine. It had individual exhaust ports on each cylinder. So he starts up the engine, and it's just silent, and go fart, cracker, pop, bing, boom. Look at it. I turned to the colonel. I said, I think there's something wrong with that engine. He laughed. And he said, okay. So we taxi out. He gets off by the end of the runway and runs up the engines and tests the mags, and sounded great. Full speed, it sounded great. I looked over and I laughed, okay. So we took off. We climbed up about 500 feet. He says, okay, you got it. 10 angels, 10,000 feet. 10 angels, and this is your course. And we flew up to Hollandia, McArthur's headquarters. And we RO'd in there, stayed there overnight. And then the next morning we flew to Mordtai and Amaharas, and we spent 2 days there. I guess he was visiting his buddies or something. And I'm down in the transient area, and we get there, and Mordtai island was owned by Palmolive Peat Company, the soap people. And boy, you stayed in, but the Japs were fiercely attacking with their Air Force. All 24 hours, but especially at night. And I had to sleep in a foxhole. My first experience of spending a night in a foxhole. Very great experience. In the morning I woke up, you'd be surprised and climbed out of the foxhole with me. All these bugs, centipedes and everything, little crabs. And I spent 2 nights in the foxhole. But I was happy to leave more time.
So now, what do you remember the approximate date of that?
September 16th, maybe, something like that. Anyway.
40.
Then from there we went back to Awi, OWI Island. Spent a day there, and then.
Well, why did the colonel pick you?
I don't know. I figured it out later, in talking to some guys, because he was a fighter pilot. And if something happened to him where we got bounced by Jap fighters or something, and he got wounded or something like that, he wanted a co-pilot that knew how to take evasive action. Fighter pilots know how to take evasive action. Bomber pilots and transport pilots don't.
Right.
They try to make smooth, level turns, not to disturb anything. Fighter pilots make jerky, unanticipated turns, right? Dives, snap rolls and stuff like that.
Do you remember the guy's name?
Brandt, B-R-A-N-D-T, I think.
Full colonel or lieutenant colonel?
Full colonel. Yeah, he was in charge of NADZA.
I wonder why he got...
He just picked me out, I was a fighter pilot. That's why he was down in fighter ops.
You'll do, okay.
Yeah, well, I was a fighter pilot. He knew fighter pilots know how to take evasive action, So
as far as the controls are concerned, throttles, rudder.
You know how to jerk it around, or how to skid it.
Did you ever land the thing?
Oh yeah, he let me land it. Yeah, and great. And so I told him that when we finished, gee, thanks, Colonel, I really appreciate it, but I really like to fly fighter planes. He laughed. He's okay. I didn't want to make me permanent.
Yeah. So anyway, after that, then this is September 44.
Let me tell you,
I'm trying to say chronological for September 44 now.
No, right after that, what we were doing besides that trip I have, we were flying convoy covers. And the guys that we had as instructors were active pilots from these fighter groups, teaching us how to save fuel. Like convoy covers, you're orbiting a convoy. Mm-hmm. So from the time you reach the convoy, you're flying a big circular pattern around this convoy. And as you're making your turns, you play your turns, as we call it. Guy on the outside comes on the inside, right? And the other element goes on the other side. Right? And you never touch your throttle. Because if you touch your throttle, you're using excess gasoline. They said, don't touch the throttle. That's how you save gas. And so you learn how to play turns, and we'd be up there over a convoy by 3 or 4 hours. Never touch the throttle. Just playing our turns and going goofy, trying to look for some Jap planes or something.
Yeah, that's.
But what I want to tell you about is we also ferried aircraft the 35th was stationed on Newfoundland Island in Dutch East Indies, and we took new aircraft up to them. We had to spend some time with them before we could get back from the transport. And we were talking to these guys, and little I realized that I'd be joining the outfit sometime later. But they were telling about a guy they had came back from a combat mission, all shot to crap. And he couldn't get his speed down slow enough to land because he had too many holes in the wings and whatnot. So the flight leader looks him over and says, okay, you just can't do it. He said, you're going to have to bail out. He said, okay. Now he said, the best way to bail out of a jug, P-47, roll her over, open the canopy, roll her over, unfasten your seatbelt and push the stick forward. He flies around for a couple minutes, calls the leader, and he says, tell me, leader, what's the second best way of bailing out? Isn't that funny? Anyway. But, so shortly after I flew in the B-25, it must have been about a week, 10 days later, I'm in the fighter ops down there, and Sergeant calls me and the other guy up there, report down to the streetcar outfit. That's what we call them, transports, C-47s. Yeah, okay. So we go down there. We were told to report in here. Yeah, you guys are the crew on number so-and-so. Huh? You're the flight crew on number so-and-so. We said, hey, we never been checked out in that. He says, so what? Rule number one in the Air Force. You got a pair of wings, you can fly anything. So we get down there and we check it with the crew chief. We've been told that we got your new flight crew here, and neither one of us had ever flown that. And the guy goes, not again. So luckily we were just carrying cargo. So we get on board there, and the other guy said, well, you were co-pilot on a B-25, so you're familiar with twin engine. He says, you be the pilot and I'll be the co-pilot. I said, no. I said, I'm going to be a co-pilot. I want those throttles in my left hand. So I know what I'm doing, right? Right. So I said, I'll fly it, and you're the pilot, but I'm the co-pilot, and you're flying it. I said, okay. So we get there, and of course, the crew chief has to tell us how to start the engines, how to taxi it. And we get on the runway, run up the engines. I pull out on the runway, and I line it up, and I start down the runway. I said, well, here we go. And he says, no, stop. Immediately stop. He says, you have to lock the tail wheel. We both turned around and looked at him. So how the hell do you do that? He told me, you reach under that instrument panel and you'll find a handle and pull it straight back. And I did that, pull it straight. He said, now we can go. And he was gripping our shoulders. Let's go. But we flew from there to Finschhafen, got rid of the cargo, and here comes a squad of dog faces, infantry guys, about 10 of them, something like that. They come up, they get on board the aircraft, and you know, C-47s, the seats are along the fuselage. They put their gear on the seats and they lay down on the floor. Dog faces, they can sleep anytime. And so we finally get on board the aircraft, and we're picking our way around these bodies to get up to the cockpit. And I sit in the cockpit and I tell my buddy, I said, those poor bastards have no idea what danger they're in. But we got them up to Islandi all right. And we flew transports for several weeks. And stopped, and then had a break. We did other things, and they called me back for the transports. And I went with a regular C-47 pilot then, and as his co-pilot. But it was very interesting.
Okay, so now you're going to get back in the P-47 again.
Yeah. Okay. Now about the very last part of November, we had an intelligence crew came down to NADZA because everyone knows we're going to go into the Philippines, and they're showing us a map of the Philippines, and they're explaining about the different islands, and we're going to be probably invading Mindanao or Luzon, and we're not going to be hitting Lady or Samar in there because it's the rainy season. Da, 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 da. And then they point to Mindoro Island. Now this is one island we know we're not to be going on. We won't be there at all. This is the worst island in the Philippines, really. Yeah, it's got cobras all over the place. And wharf rats, really. Wharf rats. You know what a wharf rat is? It's a special breed of rat. They're the size of jackrabbits.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So guess what? 58 assigned to go to Mindoro. They were assigned beginning of December. Yeah, the beginning of December. They were ordered to go from noon 4 through Lady to Mindoro. And there was 13 of us, of the guys that went over there, and they gave us verbal orders. You guys are ordered to join the 58 Fighter Group, and you have to get the ladies some way and pick them up, or eventually get to Mindoro. Okay. So we had baggage. So when you got baggage, the only thing you get a lift on is a B-24 or a C-47. And the weather was atrocious. And the combat was heavy when they went into the Philippines. And the C-47s wouldn't fly if the combat was bad, because it was too easy to shoot down. And the B-24s, not that many were going up there. So I was one of the last guys to get up to Mindoro. Although I did get the Lady, and I spent a good week with the guys in Lady before I got up to Mindoro, with the rear echelon. And they're not operating any planes out of Lady, of course. And on December 26th, the 58 Fighter Group had 2 squadrons that had been able to get up to Mindoro, the 311th and the 69th. The 310th was on Morotai in transit, waiting for weather so they get over to join the guys in Mindoro. On the 26th, the Japs sent a task force down to seek all the transports off of Mindoro. And they were picked up by reconnaissance. And they had a heavy cruiser, a light cruiser, and I think 8 destroyers. And they didn't know whether the destroyers had Jap personnel on them or not to invade. So the only way to get to the Japs was going to be at nighttime. They had no bombs to put on the P-47s that they had. So they ordered them out to go and strafe this task force, which they did. They were able to get 30 planes in the air, and I think they only got 5 planes back out of
What?
that.
You lost
'Cause
25?
They had orders that when they finished strafing to go down to Lady Tacloban Air Base. And because they thought sure the Japs were going to put some troops ashore. And they'd be showing the airfields and whatnot. So these guys went out there and they strafed at night. And later they were able to get some 38s in the air and B-25s with bombs to sink them. And some of the survivors of the Jap task forces, the first planes that hit them were just strafing them and knocked out all their gunnery on the destroyers and on the cruisers. But we lost all those guys, and all the pilots that went on the mission got the DFC. The 2 squadron leaders got the Silver Star, and the group leader got the Distinguished Service Medal, I think.
Well, there was a unit group citation of some sort, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway. I read about that.
Yeah, so...
They lost 25 pilots.
Yeah, and of course the 310 wasn't even be able to get there, you know. But they had no bombs at all to put on the planes. So,
So now which unit were you in at this time?
I wasn't in any other unit. I was down. I wasn't even on Lady Island yet. I was still roaming around trying to get to. That was a horrible time for me. It took me about 6 weeks to get up there and join my outfit. I finally got there about January 15th, 16th, something like that, and joined the outfit on Mindoro.
And which outfit? Which outfit?
Well, 311.
Okay.
When I wasn't assigned to. I got there, and then they put me in the 311.
Okay, so now you're a new guy.
You're a brand new
In
guy.
the squadron.
Yeah.
And
there were a lot of guys there for my outfit.
how many people had when you? I mean, let's see, the old heads, as it were. How long had they been there?
Oh, so like my guy Billado and Don Fish, my real close buddies. We left the same time together. Get up there, and they got there before December 26th. But they didn't go on that mission because they were just new sports joining it. And the older pilots went on the mission, and so they got the unit got the distinguished service citation.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And I didn't get that, but they were members of the outfit, and they got that.
Yeah. Well, so now, okay, so now you start flying combat missions, and you said you were flying in support of the Lightning Division.
Yeah, that's the 25th Infantry Division that's stationed at Schofield Barracks on Oahu.
Today.
Yeah, well, they were there too.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was one of our.
So what kind of missions were you doing?
when I first got up to Mindoro, we were doing armed recon missions. Two of us would go out, and you'd go out there and about crack of dawn, take off about 6:30, and get in the tropics. It gets light at 7 o'clock, and it gets dark at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we take off about 6:30, and two of us, and of course I was just a wingman then, and we would go down and fly around Panay Island, Negros, and some of the other islands, and check out their airfields and any harbors that they had and their roads, and excuse me, just report any activity. But there was kind of interesting missions. We were flying 6.5 hours, and worrying about your gasoline. And some of the guys said, on the missions I flew, maybe a half dozen of them altogether. I never ran into any problems. But the way we would approach the islands when we were going to check the roadways is we'd always fly right off the deck, like 10 feet off the water.
How fast?
Huh?
How fast?
Oh, you're 200 miles an hour, But we'd come in there, and Japs couldn't see you coming, they couldn't hear you coming, and you're right over the rack right? Gone.
Right.
By the time they get to their guns, you're all gone.
Yeah.
And you see what you could see. And then you'd fly around there, and if you saw something, then maybe an hour or so later, you come back, strafe them, and I get back. Then I started to fly some, or in between those, I went on a dive bombing mission where we had 2 wing tanks and a 500-pound bomb on the belly, and we flew up way north in the Philippines. And we attacked this Jap airfield that wasn't in real recent use, shall we say, because I couldn't see any, when we flew over, we couldn't see any active planes, but we saw planes that had been hit and stuff like that. So our mission was to disable that airfield, and 16 bombs, all different places on the airfield where we disabled that airfield.
Oh, wow.
And found out the guys older guys in the 58th did so much dive bombing, and they were so accurate. And they taught us how to dive bomb. Everything was timing. And you do things consistently, like you come in over, like over the target about 200 miles an hour. And your target, let it pass between the wing root and the fuselage. You let it disappear, then you count so many deals, then you pull up, kill off your speed, and naturally it would fall off on the left wing, and then you came down, and we didn't have any dive brakes. And we had to be 10,000 feet over the target. And you come down, and then we came down at about a 60-degree dive. You know, 60-degree dive, you swear you're doing 90-degree, aren't you?
Right.
We come down 60-degree dive, and then you pull through the target, and boom! And we did that with different air controllers. And then we were assigned to help the 25th, which was ordered to take Belidi Pass, which is, I guess the base of the road might have been 300 feet above sea level, up over 5,000 feet. And they had all this switchback up and back, going up the road. And boy, that was almost an impossible task because these guys were fighting straight up. And every time a tank went around the loop to come back into the mountain, there was an anti-tank on there, boom. So they had to depend on us to give them support to blow those guns away. So we constantly had 4 planes up there. And we would drop 8 bombs each plane, and we were so accurate, we dropped 1 bomb at a time, and you drop a couple hundred feet from a target with 1,000 pounds,
Yeah.
Yeah, you effectively wiped out the target,
So on your dive bomb pass, you basically, as soon as you kind of pass it, then you'd pull up, and at about 10,000 feet, the thing would run out of airspeed, and it'd do a kind of a wing over, and then put you right in position for a 60-degree type dive, and then you'd pull out. And did you use the pipper on your?
You just put the nose, really. But yeah, the pipper one. And then we found out later that they told us, the guys from Eglin came over there and told us that they did experiments down at Eglin Air Base where guys would come down, straight down, and of course you had converging fire.
Right.
Well, they found out instead of the bullets going like this, the bullets came and went like this. So they said you could strafe them while you're in your dive bombing run. Really? So sometimes and then we slowed down on the dive too. Yeah, a lot of times we.
How did you release the bombs?
Well, physically we just reached down and first you had to arm it when you were ready.
Right.
And you reached down and there was a loop, handle, a T-handle for each bomb. And you could grab both of them at the same time to jettison it together, or one at a time.
And then the gun, of course, is the trigger.
Yeah, the trigger's on this stick. So.
Well, let's move ahead to the whole Japanese thing. So finally, you get to the point where you're going to start flying missions on the southern island of Japan.
Well, could I back up a little bit? First
Okay.
of all, we went to Porac. We finally ended up at Porac on Luzon, P-O-R-A-C, a little town there. And the town people came out to join it. Yeah, great, you're here. Real nice people. They welcomed us, and then we hired the gals to do our laundry. Well, then we had a culture clash. These girls would come there about 12:30 every day and stay till close to 5 o'clock. And they would visit with us. And we'd come back from our combat missions, and they'd just stay there. So if you get undressed in front of them, you walk over, take a shower, you come back, and you get dressed in front of them. They had like 10 people living in a little 20 by 20 bamboo grass shack. There was no deal about seeing nakedness in the opposite sex at all. And it took us a few days to get used to that, but we were there for about 3 months, and boy, we thought nothing of it, and nothing bad ever happened. But it was sort of a culture clash. But also when we got to Porac, shortly after that, we were joined by the 201st Aero Squadron of Mexico. Mexican Air Force. Yeah. They had one squadron that they sent over to join us in combat.
What kind of airplanes?
P-47.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And we, first of all, we had to take them and we integrated them into our flights. The flight leader, Mexican, 3rd and 4th Band American. So flight of 16, we had 4 Mexicans with us, just to get them acclimated going on combat missions with us.
Right.
Yeah. And then they stayed with us, and pretty soon they went on their own. And when we went up to assigned to Okinawa, they sent them to Clark Field, where they flew over to Formosa from Clark Field. But one of the things that happened at WARHAWK, just before we left there, we came back from a combat mission, and there's like 6 P-51s, like each squadron had like 2 P-51s sitting there. And we found out, what's that? I said, you're going to start flying those things. Boy, we got real enthusiastic. Really? Great. That means we might start flying escort missions, have a chance of shooting down some Japs, right? Mm-hmm. And no, you're going to be doing the same old, just dropping bombs. And we said, no way. 140 pilots said, no way, we're not getting in that damn P-51. That's a spam can. You ever hear that expression, spam can?
Yeah.
You know what a spam, you can
I know,
spam
yeah.
Well, you empty a spam can and hit it.
Right, yeah.
Piece of tin, right?
Right.
That's what the 51 was, a spam can. Couldn't take any punishment. We got getting guys shot down all the time, you know, bellying in, ditching it, all that. Mm-hmm. And you could ditch a 47, you know, belly on it like a surfboard.
Yeah.
Great plane to ditch in the ocean, stay float almost 5 seconds. And you ditch it on land anywhere, right? In fact, we have guys ditching into the jungle, trees, and survive. You couldn't do that with a 51. There was no substitute. And besides, they looked at the profile of P-51. You got a big scoop under the bottom. What do you do when you ditch it? That scoop picks up the water, right? Boom, you're dead.
And stray bullets off the ground.
Well, we had one time one of our squadrons was up over Negro side, and they were working over an airfield, and 4 51s came over to join them. 2 of the 51s shot themselves down.
Shot themselves down with ricochets?
They flew in their own ricochet.
Yeah.
Engines froze up right now. I think they lost the guys.
They should have learned that. Shoot and turn.
We didn't worry about that. We had an air-cooled engine. We were getting hit with machine gun fire all the time. Fortunately, I never had that experience. I never got hit. I flew 72 combat missions. I dropped 50 tons of ordnance. Never got hit with any shrapnel or machine gun fire. Everyone in my outfit had been hit, and most of the guys ditched, some up to 3 times.
Some people are lucky.
Ditch, you know, on land or ocean, yeah.
There's no justification for it.
You just don't know. Hey, God took care of me, you know. And, you know, it was then, I was still scared to death. You know, everyone's scared. You see ACAC come up at you, you know. You know, I've flown so low along, and the Japs use these twin Bofors, 40 millimeter. And that's no soft hit. You get hit with a 40 millimeters. Like over in Europe, most of them was 20 millimeter ACAC. We had that 40 millimeter board. And you see these guys pumping at you, you know. One guy's turning for the altitude, and the other guy's for the trajectory, you know. And you see boom, 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 and you see them boom, boom, boom. Oh, they're going to hit me, they're shooting at me. No lead. Yeah. Tell your laundry guy that. You know, but really, I was so lucky. Yeah.
So now what? So now you get.
Finally, I get up to Okinawa.
Okay.
Right, they went up. Okay. When the guys are leaving for Okinawa, we're yelling and screaming, boy, we're Okinawa bound with all the kamikazes hanging around. We're going to shoot down kamikazes. And so the guys are leaving. And guess what? CO calls me in. He says, "You and Captain Foster are going to go to Clark Field. You're on assignment with 5th Fighter Command." Oh, thank you. So we had a 2-week assignment with 5th Fighter Command.
What number would that be? It's still 58th, but Fighter Command as opposed to...
Oh, 5th Fight. Well, they're a whole 5th Air Force. 5th
Right.
Fighter Command is for the whole Air Force.
Right.
All the fighter groups in the General Smith was in charge.
Okay.
But we were assigned, so that's where the headquarters. So we were good. And Foster and I, can you believe that? Well, we've been waiting all for the whole war to get there and shoot some of those Japs. Here we are. So anyway, so my 2 weeks was up. The day my 2 weeks was up, they had dropped a bomb on Hiroshima. And here we were on a B-24 to fly up to Okinawa, and everyone's thought, what the hell's an A-bomb? Actually, what the hell is an A-bomb? Boy, I wonder what that looks like. Boy, I wonder what kind of damage it does, this and that. We get up to Okinawa. The very next day, I'm on a combat mission up to Kyushu Island. That's where Nagasaki is. And so what we did, we were on a fighter sweep. We down about 10 feet off the deck, you know, and anything that moved, you shoot it up, strafe it. And we fly around it, and on the way up there, I flew over Nagasaki. No damage at all. And I am so upset. I think, what the heck are those B-24s doing? There's no damage here. Little did I know, there was about 8 cities in Japan that were off limits. No damage, no bombing at all, because they knew they were going to drop an unusual bomb. And when after the bomb dropped, they wanted a good assessment of the damage, so they didn't have any prior damage.
So now Kyushu is a southern island, and the town of Nagasaki is on the kind of the southeastern or southwestern part of the island, isn't
Well,
it?
that's at the bottom of the island. Well, yeah, there's sort of like a main island and like a big peninsula comes in, and
Okay.
it makes like a harbor. And
So how far was it?
let's call it an estuary, if anything.
How far away was Okinawa?
Oh, about 2 hours flying, something like that.
So was it a flight of 4?
Oh no, a whole squadron.
So 16 airplanes, or
Yeah, I'm sure I was one of the flight. I know I was a flight leader. I don't think I was the squadron leader.
so what do you do? Hit the coast, just spread out with 16 airplanes?
Yeah, well, you're right. Yeah, combat formations. You're not in tight. You're spread
Right.
out. You're about 25 yards apart. You know, so everyone can look around and see what's going on.
But I mean, it's all sort of all fingertip formation, I presume, where they line
Oh no,
abreast.
you're lined up straight. Yeah.
So 16 airplanes spread out over, that's almost 200 yards probably.
Oh yeah, longer, bigger than that. Yeah.
So then the idea is you all come in at the same time and just...
Oh
whatever
yeah,
you-
you come up there and you approach everything about 10 feet off the water. They don't know you're coming, and you're so low they can't see you coming. And when you get there, if there's any yak, you're gone.
Well, so then you're just shooting whatever's happened to be in front of you.
Anything that moves, anything that moves.
And then then you just keep going straight and...
Oh no, you fly over, you see something that might be interesting, you swing over there.
But if you got all these airplanes lined abreast, if this guy sees something to his left and somebody sees it to his right,
You're calling in to each other.
you're talking to each other.
Yeah, you talk to each other at the radio one. And
So all these airplanes at once fly over Nagasaki. Did
Yeah.
you know not to hit it?
well, we were instructed not to hit it.
Okay.
We went there to strafe Nagasaki.
So you
We
could-
were there to check out anything that's moving, you know.
Shoot up
We
the-
didn't have any bombs, we just had wing tanks. See?
shoot up the island, but leave Nagasaki alone.
Well, they didn't even tell us that. Just go up there, you fire your fire sweep. So why shoot hundreds of factories, you know? You're out there you're shooting up anything on the road. You're looking for automobiles, trucks, any railroad.
But you're not, with a machine gun, you're not going to be knocking down buildings.
No, yeah, you know. And you don't want, especially when you're just sitting, you don't want to shoot up all your ammo on buildings. You want stuff to count, you know. You might run into just some jet aircraft too. Wow, you know.
So you come in there. Let's say what time of the afternoon? So this would be August. Let's see. The original
The 6th, this would have been the
wasn't the
the 8th. the 8th, because the 7th I traveled. On the 8th, I was up there. Then on the 9th is when they dropped the A-bomb on Nagasaki.
Right.
Of course, I was on Okinawa then.
So the
anyway,
5th,
we had the 310th Squadron up there on Kyushu, and they came back and they said they must have dropped another A-bomb because the whole sky lit up. And we said, you know. But that night they announced the A-bomb was going off. And we
So
we were enthused, you know.
so okay, all right. Let me get this right. So the original A-bomb was dropped on August the 9th, was it? And the second one?
No. The original was August 6th
August
on
6th.
Hiroshima.
Right.
I traveled up to Okinawa on the 7th.
Okay.
The 8th I flew my first mission up to.
So it was the 9th. It was just 3 days later.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the 15th is when they said that's it. That's
Yeah.
when they quit. Okay.
Okay, so
So
the
now, how
9th,
far away was it that they saw the flash at night? Or not?
no, they were over. No, the 310th was over Kyushu on a mission. They were at Nagasaki, of course, but they were up on that island, and they said when they came back they must have dropped another A-bomb because of how the sky lit up. And
So the sky lit up during the day?
yeah.
Ooh.
So
Jesus.
then that night they announced that the bomb had gone off. Then the next morning, I am the squadron leader, for sure. You know, I'm taking the squadron up there. And I headed right for Nagasaki. And I didn't worry about any yak and anything. I came in about 5,000 feet, you know, to look around and get over. And I was amazed when I saw wow, look at Nagasaki. And of course, we started orbiting around there, and we got down to as low as 1,000 feet, you know. But we were so impressed. Every sidewalk and street was perfectly clean. And it must have rained that morning because it was wet, and it looked like a street sweeper had gone down there. There wasn't anything on the sidewalk or street, perfectly clean. And it was like a big hand came down and it was squashed. And all the buildings were, anything that was combustible was gone. And the only thing we saw standing were chimneys, like big factory chimneys, and some steel poles, and that was it. And we were used to seeing bomb damage because, you know, you hit a building, the debris go out on the street and sidewalk and stuff, but none. And of course, as you got out towards the fringe of the bomb, then you saw regular bomb damage, stuff in the streets and stuff like that. But over ground zero, so I spent at least 20 minutes there. And I would spend more time except I start worrying about our fuel. I had to fly my mission, you know, around the island.
So what was the conversation like on the radio?
Oh, what? Can you believe that? Look at that! Wow! Did you ever see anything like that? That was it. We were all shocked, you know. But the worst part about it is, realize how much radiation we were exposed to. But who knew about radiation?
No.
Years later, I was wonder. That night, all 16 of us didn't glow. In the dark.
Yeah.
Well, wow! You know what a dummy I was to do that.
Was there fire still burning?
No.
No fires.
I don't recall seeing any fires burning. Well, you know,
How would he supposed
anything combustible in an instant. Can you
Right.
imagine? In an
What are you
instant.
supposed to diameter?
Imagine how many automobiles and trucks were on those streets.
What was the diameter of the? Kind of hard to tell from the air.
Yeah. Oh,
Half a mile or?
at least a half mile.
Jeez.
Can't believe it, you know. And of course, with me, I just saw a couple of days before, and everything disappeared that I had seen before.
So now you fly home.
Yeah.
And did you fly more missions after that?
Oh yeah. We flew some missions around there, and then after the 15th, they had to do certain things, and we flew. They counted them as combat missions. I flew, took the squadron out and looked over because they were supposed to put sheets over their weapons, artillery, and all that, and expose everything. So we making sure they were doing that, and they knew we would be invading Kyushu. That's the southernmost island, and they had the perfect beach for a landing. like Long Beach, California,
Right.
and on the east side of the island. And I don't know how long it went, like 10 miles. And then it was flat, and it went in maybe a mile or so, and then they had cliffs going up.
So that's why you were softening it up is what you were doing.
Huh?
You're kind of softening it up by going in there and strafing everything in sight.
Well, yeah. And,
So if there was any,
but this would have been the landing beach.
yeah,
And then the cliff that they had up there above the landing beach was all full of caves with white stuff over the artillery that they had there.
oh wow,
Yeah, we're looking at
Oh,
that.
boy.
Boy, there'd been something. Yeah. I understand that my 58 group, because we were so experienced in close ground support, was earmarked to go in on the landing on Kyushu, be the first group in there, fly off the airstrip in Kyushu. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I was told that, and I wouldn't doubt it, because no one had the experience for ground support like we did.
well you know that they had to have a massive plan just like they had in Europe.
Oh, yeah. But you know what? The plan was to land on November 1st, and they called it X Day. And I guarantee you, X Day would have been X'd out. Because
What do
at
you
the end of the war,
What do you mean X'd out?
it would never have happened.
Why?
At the end of the war, we were ordered to take our airplanes down to Biak for disposal in the Dutch East Indies. And I got away from the outfit for, must have been about 10 days before I got back. But where I found that they reversed the order and said, turn in the planes at Clark Field. Okay. So I get up to Okinawa after we got rid of our airplanes, and they deactivated my 58 fighter group. Why they did that, I have no idea. It caused nothing but chaos. And we were ordered, the guys that were waiting to go home, about 10 of us, 8 or 10 of us, I remember, to go to the 99th Bomb Group, the Jolly Rogers group, that were stationed on Ieshima, that's a little island next to Okinawa. Well, we got over there and reported in, and they said, okay, you're assigned to this tent here, 4 of us, and we get to a 16 by 60 tent, and all there is 4 cots in there, nothing else. We had our baggage with us. We get in there. 2 days later, Typhoon Louise hit. The worst typhoon in history.
Oh jeez.
The worst storm in history. Our weather station blew away like 134 miles an hour. And you couldn't believe that wind. They estimated it years later, because all the instruments they had bottomed out, or topped out, you know,
Yeah.
like the, for air speed, that was gone, and the barometers bottomed out. So they don't know how bad
Yeah, right.
barometric pressure, and the lower it is, the worse the storm.
Right.
But we got hit with this typhoon, and you can't believe it. We ended up, because all the guys' tents start blowing away, they'd come over.
Let me ask you some other questions here. Okay, this picture, I have 6 pictures here.
Yeah.
This picture is of,
That's when I was, after I got my wings, of course, that was probably,
let me hold it.
I don't know whether it was probably March 1944.
Okay, and then the next one here we have,
That's me with a group of guys. That was probably on.
what kind of airplane is it?
We're by P-47.
Okay.
P-47, and I'm trying to remember where they could be anywhere, and might have been at Porak, or I know it's not Mindoro, because you can see the uniforms nice, and that is at Mindoro, Look how crummy the uniform is. Because on Mindoro Island, we ran into this typhus, which we didn't have shots for. And it was 95% mortality rate if you got typhus.
Oh, jeez.
The poor medics that were in dire straits, they didn't know what to do for it. So in desperation, they made us take our shirts, trousers, and socks, and we had to soak them in GI soap solution, so little ticks wouldn't stay on them. And we had to put the cuffs of our pants inside our socks. But what was so funny about it, if you got rained on or you sweated and you scratched yourself, you would foam up.
Now, how about this picture here?
That's on Mindoro.
Was that the name?
That's not my plane. That's Dave. Did
you have a name on your plane?
I didn't have a name on my plane. We didn't name the planes after I got joined the outfit. Why do we name planes? Because you might never fly it. See, we had this.
And then this good-looking guy.
Yeah, that's at the end of the war. 22 years old. Can you imagine? They took me off the leash and let me go to DePaul University.
So this is 22 years old, and your combat. The war is over, and you're back home, I guess.
Yeah, Chicago.
This is the picture we'll show first.
Yeah.
So I love the picture standing. Do you remember the day this picture was taken when you were?
No, I have no idea. I know it's on Mindoro Island.
You can tell by the uniform.
Yeah. It's probably maybe because I got the Mindoro on about the January 15th, 16th, so that's got about the end of January probably.
So, what was the when the war was over? When you found out the war was over, and you were where? Where were you actually at that time?
Okinawa.
And what did
Machinado Airfield.
did everybody go nuts and go out and?
Oh yeah, I went over. You better be kidding! I get killed. Every gun went off when as soon as it was announced at night. The Japs going to sign this peace deal.
And then how long did it take you to get home?
Oh, forever. Well, I had to go through that typhoon. Then after we found our orders to go home, it took us a good week to get down to Manila, and get on a transport. And then we get on the transport, and we
It's
got
a
on
magnet.
the
It's a magnet.
USS Admiral Mayo. It carried 2,500 troops, I think. And it was so funny because this is in October. We're going up on the...
You should hold the airplane.
I shouldn't fly it.
No, hold it up in front of your shirt, so I get the white
Like this?
background. Yeah, like that. That's cool. That's very neat. That's very neat. So, what model is that? Do you know? Which model would that be?
That's probably the D-28 was the start of the bubble canopy. So it is probably a D-16, something like that.
So, what was it? Okay, now when the war ends, and you get back home, I mean, what was the general attitude of everybody?
Well, great. You know, you're home, and you're not going to get shot at anymore. You know what? I found out I was a confirmed coward. I was real happy the war was over. And then going back to school. But
Did you go back to school immediately?
no, but January. I got home in the middle of November.
Well, you know what?
After the war, when I was home about February, I started feeling kind of funny. And I attributed the fact that I missed my buddies. I wasn't going to see my buddies anymore, you know.
You may not see them because the ones that had passed on?
Oh, no, the guys that were still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they, like Bilodeau and these other guys. And,
Oh, I meant to ask you, who were the three guys in the pictures? Anyway?
that was Eugene Jameson, Gene James.
And what happened? And he was the one on the left.
Oh yeah, he was great. He was married while he was in the service, and he was one of our good buddies. But we had about 6 of us that were bachelors, and Jamie, we call him Jamie, would never go with us because we'd get in trouble.
So he would.
He was loyal to his wife.
And the guy on the right, who's he?
That's Jim Bilodeau, James Bilodeau. That's the guy that was the
How do you spell it?
supervisor of training. Bilodeau.
Oh, he's the guy you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's the one that was super California in September '47, which I did. And when I got out to California in September '40s, I found out they were flying B-26s out of Long Beach Airfield, and they weren't the B-26s Martin Marauders; they were the A-26 Invaders that they renamed.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down there to visit the reserve unit there and talked to them. They said, since I flew B-25s, they were interested in me. And these guys are flying on the weekend getting paid. And I never did hear from them, though. They took my name and address and whatnot because they didn't have any openings. Then when I was in law school in 1950, one of the fellow students was the operations officer of the Air National Guard unit at Van Nuys flying P-51s.
Uh-huh.
So he told me, he says, Marty, I got a great deal for you. July 1st, one of the guys is leaving the outfit, and I can appoint anyone in his place. Great. He says, I got an opening for you. July 1st, you just step out of the Army Reserves into the Air National Guard, and you can start flying P-51s on the weekend and getting paid. Good idea. Guess what? June of '50, Korea. And guess what happened in '48? The Berlin airlift. The unit I was in Lohair went over to haul coal into Berlin. The B-26 outfit in Long Beach went over to Korea and got their ass shot off. The P-51s from Van Nuys went to Korea for ground support, lost all of them.
So you missed all of Korea then. You lucked out.
Lucky Pierre.
Yeah. Well, listen, we gotta stop now. You said you had 3 hours of conversation.
Sure.
I think you have about 6 more to go.